On this episode of That Shit Doesn't Define You, we are talking about addiction. But let's think about this. Food. Food is life. We celebrate it at our birthdays, with holidays. Families come together and we enjoy food. For many of us, food becomes an escape. We eat it when we're sad. We eat it when we're stressed. Or we eat it sometimes when we're lonely. Or, I love this. Brene Brown said once, after she read her comments about herself from her first TED Talk, she grabbed a huge thing of ice cream, sat in her bed, and ate the whole thing. Have you been there? Have you ever done that? Have you ever used food for something other than nourishment? Well, today we're talking about what happens when we do that. When food becomes the comfort, when food becomes the numbing thing. What do we do? How do we overcome it? Have you ever hit a moment where success wasn't enough? Where the weight of your past and the scars no one sees, or the doubts you don't dare voice, keep you from breaking through to the life you know you're capable of? Maybe on the outside, you've achieved more than most, but inside, there's still something holding you back. If that hits home, take a breath. You found your people. You found your tribe. Welcome to That Shit Does Not Define You, Stories of Hope. I'm Athena Captain, joined by my co-host, Jada Haycraft. This isn't just another podcast, friends. It's a space to strip away the labels, the shame, and the invisible barriers standing between you and your next chapter in life.
In every episode, we'll bring you raw, real stories of resilience, people who have rewritten their lives, and give you the strategies and tools to do the same. Whether you're climbing out of rock bottom or breaking through to your next level, your future starts here. Let's get started.
And that's what we're discussing today. And I can't wait for you guys to hear. We've got a wonderful guest today. I obviously will be chiming in on this too. So thank you for being here. And let's discover today, how do we get from food, from nourishment to overeating to success? How do we do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you guys for being here. All of you who are listening to our podcast, we thank you so much for being here. Gosh, we're having a wonderful season. Lots of nuggets being pulled out here. So Jada, who do we have today with us?
Yeah, so I'm excited to introduce Penny Mahan. She is a powerful example of redemption and resilience.
Mm.
Once incarcerated twice, Penny's life began to change behind bars through the Genesis One Network, which is a prison ministry. It's an organization that she now leads as executive director on. She was also the founder of The Raft, its recovery advocate for transition. It's a nonprofit helping women navigate life after incarceration. And today, Penny works as a software developer at Hobby Lobby, and she's deeply involved in her church. She's a proud mother of two. So after years of struggling with food addiction, she made the courageous decision to undergo weight loss surgery and has maintained her health and transformation ever since. At 51, Penny's story is one of faith, freedom, and the belief that no past mistake defines your future. And that is what this whole podcast is all about. So help me welcome Penny. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. Penny, thank you for your willingness to be here. What an amazing testimony and life story you have. So I really appreciate you being here. Can you share with us when food first started to shift from simply being nourishment, something you did, to when you really started to understand that you were using it for something maybe not the best for you, for comfort or escape?
So I knew that I wasn't using food well when I was a teenager, but when I look back, I personally believe that sugar cereals were like the very first addiction that I ever had. When I would go to the
Really?
babysitters, I would want to have like 2 or 3 bowls of Waffle-Os. I don't know if y'all remember what those were, but and that's just nothing but sugar. And so that's my earliest memory of using or wanting to eat something just because I wanted more of it and not because I was hungry or even that it tasted wonderful. It was just I wanted some more. So
So, and that happened when you were younger?
yeah, like 5 or 6, 7.
Okay, so really, now do you think it was just the craving of the sugar, or were you using it to escape, or it was just because you enjoyed the sugar?
I personally think that was probably sugar. However, they have a lot of diagnoses today that they didn't have when we were younger. And I graduated from college when I was 20 years old. So I'm pretty intelligent, but don't have a whole lot of common sense, hence the prison trips. But I mean, I feel like that there was probably other things going on in my psyche as a young child that I now I go to counseling and all the things. But I still to this day struggle with not using food as a coping mechanism. So
Yeah,
it could easily have been a coping mechanism even then.
wow. So did you okay, so the sugar cereals, did it carry on through your let's say teenage years and then early adulthood?
Absolutely, and so I was always overweight. My mom even took me to Weight Watchers when I was 15, and I actually lost, a little bit of weight, and I kept it off until I got a job at 16, and most 16-year-olds, I got a job at a fast food restaurant, and I just started kinda gradually gaining my weight back, and then I went to college, and it just was really bad, and then, I kinda kept that weight between, like, 250 and 260 until I got into recovery, and then, I had a bad car accident, and I couldn't ever get under 250 or 260 even though I worked out. I was an athlete my whole life, I was just always a chunky athlete, like, I threw shot put, discus, and javelin, played volleyball, um, softball, but I was always overweight, and so once I had that car accident and I was getting older, I just couldn't get the weight off, and so that's why I chose to have weight surgery, and it probably saved my life, so
Well, wonderful. I mean, one of the things want our listeners to understand is no one ever on this podcast, our goal is to never be judgmental. Whatever resources you need to use
that's
to
right.
help you get over, an addiction or help you win in any,
That's
as
right.
long as it's ethical, right? Whatever you need to do.
Right.
Um, I think I don't know why it is about weight, but people have all these judgments. You know what I mean? If you need to use a resource to lose weight, somehow you're shamed for it.
Right.
And I don't want any of that if somebody's listening right now, and
It's
you
just a
are
tool.
it's a tool, right?
Yeah, you
I'm
still
like,
have to do what you're supposed to do. I can't go home and eat a bunch of Zoom Zooms and Wham Whams and think I'm gonna keep my weight off. Like, it's
right?
just a tool. So,
I know. I mean, I just wanted to say in this podcast, we're not shaming you. Whatever tools you need in order to be the healthiest you, good for you. As long as it's not lines of cocaine or speed, nothing like that. We're not
I
promoting
tried that
that.
for a while, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm super glad that I've not done that because I've tried everything else, and every diet known to man, I've tried it, right?
Mhm.
With not a lot of success, unfortunately. But so when you just for our listeners to understand too, so they could see if they see themselves in this. Um, when you think about now, you're looking back on your life, what did overeating look like for you physically, mentally, and socially?
I think that I was a very opinionated and, self-contained person, so I didn't ever eat anything I didn't like to eat, and I remember a babysitter making me eat pork and beans, and she wouldn't give me anything to drink, and I got sick on her white carpet, and so, like, I don't like certain smells, and so I feel like that part of me is that I would only eat certain things, and I believe that those things aren't the best, nutritional value, or if they do, they have a lot of fat in them, like, I like cheese, and so, and breads I don't think are good for any human being. So those were the things that I liked. So I would eat those things, and other people would eat those things as part of their meals, and it didn't seem to affect them. And so I feel like that part of that is just me choosing to eat things. The only thing I didn't eat a lot of vegetables. I liked fruit, but my parents were middle class. We didn't have like a smorgasbord of fresh vegetables and fruit. Both my parents worked, so we a lot of times we didn't have a cooked meal every single night. We had whatever we could go on the go to our games and things like that. So
Do you think it would have made a difference for you had your environment growing up, if you had more of like the beaver cleaver mom making you the nutritional meal? Would have changed your behavior, you think?
I don't think so. So my sister's not overweight, and neither are my brothers are gaining weight as they get older, but nobody was overweight with me. So I don't really think that that would have changed it. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe I would have known when I was at Weight Watchers. Maybe I would have had more tools to eat healthier, and maybe I could found things that I liked. But I don't know. I don't think that my parents were great parents, so I don't think that that would have changed much. And if it would have, it probably would have changed other things in my psyche because I definitely have a great work ethic, and it's probably been the
Mhm.
one thing that saved me from addiction. So
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, I've often wondered that only for myself because I've struggled with food my entire life and my weight my entire life. Um, and I will say I grew up so when I lived with my mom, we were so poor that food was scarce. So you didn't know if you're going to get food. And so then, and I would live with my great grandma, and she wasn't rich, but the food was steady and it was yummy. So for me, I learned very early food was something I didn't know if I was going to get. And I only had really good food when I was in safety. So unfortunately for me, something went in my head that having yummy food means you're safe, right? And that for somebody who struggle like I don't need to eat a lot to gain weight. I don't
yeah.
have that great of I'm not that person. I walk by a donut and I gain weight. I'm like, "What's that about?" But so to equate that for me, that sense of safety and, enjoyment became from food at a super early age. Um, and and so I will just say for me, I struggled with saying no to food because somewhere in my brain it was like, "No, but you don't know if you're gonna get it." Now that's not rational because as I started making my own money, right, that's not rational. But
Right.
it's interesting how your brain does weird things to you. Um, and I would I know this is crazy, but I would rebel. Like if I was really mad about life, I'd be like, "Fine, I'm gonna go get a burger." Like
Right.
like who am I getting mad at other than my health? But somehow that was like my rebellion. Like, "Ha ha, I got you, life. I'm eating the burger."
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even rational. And anyone listening, if you've ever dealt with food, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't make sense. These things are not people who don't have food addiction have they're like, "What?" Like, right?
So we were me and my mom and my sister who's older than me, were adopted. Me and my sister adopted by my dad, and then I have two younger brothers. They're 7 and 8 years younger than me. And so when my mom was raising us, we didn't have a lot of money, but we never didn't have food, right? My mom worked, and so but when she and my dad, different kinds of foods came into the house. So we had like pop and peanut butter and jelly, and like just things that doesn't sound bad, but like when you aren't used to those, I also feel like that transition from different foods also contributed to the way those foods affected me. I think that maybe if I'd have been exposed to those my whole life, then they wouldn't have been such a treat. Or I mean, I don't really know. And it was a very impressionable age. I was adopted when I was 4, so I do feel like that the transition to different
Mm.
types of unhealthy foods did contribute to why I like
Well, I
food
think that
as my life
I
got
am so
better.
glad you Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, think about that, Jada, on a psychology. You're right. I mean, you grew up and you weren't exposed. You are not the first guest to explain to us that when you weren't raised around something and then it becomes you are given access to it, it becomes more of like a treat. And often we're seeing some parallel, Jada, and Penny, where that treat can become an addiction. It's interesting. I think that's something for people. I'm it's a pattern that I'm seeing in this series that I didn't really realize at all. It's just a little eye opening. And maybe for some people that it wouldn't even matter to them, but for those of us who have an addictive personality or some things going on chemically with us, that depravity to something that you love triggers something in us. It does me. I mean, that I had no food to having yummy food, and
Yeah,
so
I
huge.
think about that too, even just on like, and we're not talking about alcoholism today, but and whenever you think about in Europe, the drinking age is a lot younger, and kids grow up getting wine in middle school, just like with their meal, like that's just what they do. That's their culture. but you don't hear and you don't see statistics of the overconsumption of alcohol in their 20s and their 30s or even beyond that, or really even in their teens, because it's just a bit more of the way of life for them, and it's more of a culture thing, whereas, like, in America here, you're not supposed to drink till you're 21, whether people do that or not, and it's kind of given, like, a taboo of, like, "Oh, you can't drink because it's bad." But then I think that turns into "Well, I wasn't allowed to have it, and now I can, so I'm gonna overconsume it." And I think that that just goes in line a lot with what we've talked about, in previous episodes, and it sounds like today too. There's just a pattern there of when you're, quote, unquote, "not allowed to have something," or you don't have access to something, and then you get it, and it's been something that that's, quote, unquote, "bad for you," like soda or sugar, like we're talking about. I think that's whenever the overconsumption
Mhm.
comes into play.
Absolutely. And I think people don't understand how easily I will say this, and ladies, tell me if you disagree. I've always said food is a very difficult addiction to get over because who's going to tell you
Well,
you
you have
can't
to
have
eat.
food?
Yeah, you
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 know what I
have to eat.
mean?
You
And
physically can.
I think that people who don't struggle with food don't understand that there's more going on. There's deeper
Well,
emotions. Penny, did you?
food is legal, and
Yeah.
you have to have some food. So a lot of addictions, you can just stop doing those things, and then your body won't react unless you put it in your body. But food, you
Hmm.
have to have some food, and so like there's no true abstinence on food.
Yeah,
Right. Absolutely.
so true.
Now, I know for myself, but maybe I'd like to hear from you. Did food meet deeper needs or emotional needs or do something for you outside of nutrition? Explain that for you. I'll explain it from my point of
Absolutely.
view, but what about for you?
Absolutely. Like having food, today to this day, I probably didn't recognize it back then, but I use it for anxiety. Like it's a part of a routine that relaxes me, and going and cooking up a stir fry of vegetables is not going to do it. And so like it's it's a routine of certain things at certain times, even when I'm developing into bad habits or I see myself straying back to things I used to do. One of the things is I like to read and eat. And so that's not good. Like, yeah, I'm only supposed to use food for fuel. So I'm not supposed to have food when I'm eating or watching TV or any of those things. It's a huge habit to break. Because I don't need that food, but my brain tells me that it feel good and I should get that food while I'm enjoying a book or a movie.
Hmm. Oh, that's interesting that you're saying that when you're doing something you enjoy, then your body's like, oh, and then let's double enjoy. Let's get that food
Right.
and enjoy
Correct.
it. Um, yeah, I absolutely see that. One of the things that I have struggled with food for a long time, but I will say, in the last year, I have been able to lose. I guess I'm down to 80. I've lost 84 pounds finally, and
Congratulations.
got thank you. I've got more to go, but
Me too.
one of the things that I'm noticing that is really difficult is I because we anyway, I have a daughter with disability and I don't get to go out very much. And so I want to go out to eat. I'm like, I can go out to lunch or I want to go out to eat because that's become one of the only things I can do for entertainment. Well, for somebody like me who struggles with food, that is not a good entertainment. My only source of entertainment cannot revolve around food and me be the healthy me. And I'm really struggling with losing that one form of entertainment. And what am I going to fill it with? That is something I feel very deprived of, and I'm frustrated about. But I know I am not a person that can go out to eat multiple. I will not make the good choices. I'm not the person's like, I'm gonna go out to eat and I'd like to get those grilled vegetables and the chicken. I
Right.
won't do it. I know I
Right.
won't do it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a really I'm struggling with that personally right now, because I'm like, okay, what else can I do that isn't, let's go for I'm doing a lot of walking. Like, let's go for a walk. You know what I mean? Because it's really I don't get to do a lot. And so it's frustrating. But I just Man, hats off to the people who can go out to eat and order the chicken and the steamed vegetable. Good on ya. Not me. Never gonna happen. And unfortunately, my little girl, loves Mexican food. And I'm like, "No, we're not." She every Saturday, she wants to go to the mall and wants to go to Mexican food, and I'm like, "Mama cannot eat Mexican food every Saturday." You know what I mean? Just can't. But, um, obviously, any kind of addiction, including food, has a personal cost. Did your food addiction cost you anything personally with your health, relationships, or anything like that?
I do think it cost me some things. I was married. I married my high school sweetheart like after my first year of college, and he liked me just the way I was. Didn't like me to wear makeup or cut my hair, and I was a little chunky. And then I gained more weight in college, and well, he left me when I was 24 for a stripper, and told me he missed conversation. I'm sure he did. And but I mean, like, so that really affected me personally. Like that was a very all of it, I felt like it was me, right? And so that deeply affected me, and I had never really I graduated from college when I was 20, so I'd been with him since I was 16, and so I was like a 16-year-old that was single, and I didn't make any good choices. And, I started drinking and doing drugs and all of that, and I thought I found the cure because I didn't gain weight during that time because I was replacing what I'd normally used food for with other substances. And so every time I get sober, I'd gain weight again. And so it was a very huge struggle for me. And it affected every facet of my life. And at the end, though, I decided I didn't want to go to prison anymore. So I just picked my battles and I got sober. But my weight was really out of control and it was affecting my health. I weighed 315 pounds. I still try to go to scouts with my son. Like I said, I've always been an athlete. I would try to do boot camps and work out, and it was really hard on my body. You cannot outwork a bad diet. And it was just the mechanism in
Yeah.
my brain, like I said, I couldn't use my other coping mechanisms. Food you cannot be completely abstinent from. And it's very difficult in today's society to put yourself in a safe space all the time with food. Food is everywhere around us, at work,
Mhm.
at home, at functions, on the TV. Um, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
Not good food.
it is.
Like, there might be a good choice in there, but more than likely, even the good choice isn't as good as it could be.
No. No. No, none of the commercials are good for you food. They're not
Right,
dancing broccolis. You know what I
right,
mean? That's not
right.
happening. It's not happening, but yeah, I
Advertising
mean,
that the farmer's market, yeah, I don't see that on TV, right,
no, I don't either. A lot of weight loss drugs, though. There's a lot of
Yep,
that on TV,
that's
but
true.
yeah,
And they're weight
um,
loss drugs that affect the sensors inside of your brain, not anything inside your body. And so, like, for people to continue to think that people choose to be obese is crazy when the most successful weight loss drugs are actually having side effects of causing you to have a better heart, causing you to have less diabetes, causing you to have less hypertension. So, that whatever's going on in our brains with food in the Western world, it affects every asset of our health. And the cure is not in our stomachs. It's in our brains. So, I mean, every drug you take is for your brain. So the GLP sensor is for your brain. So
mhm. Yeah, you're right. The weight loss drugs are doing the same thing that the anti-drinking. I mean, it's the
correct,
s I don't think people realize that the same thing that makes you an alcoholic makes you an overeater. Addiction is
correct,
addiction. There's an addiction receptor, right?
correct,
This is our drug,
correct.
right? And I want people to understand that, and we need to get help. You have to help, and you need to understand that. And I wish people would stop judging people so much. I will say that you don't know what's going on, first of all. A lot of, yes, I have an addictive personality, and yes, food was addictive, but I also had huge hormonal things going on,
Yep.
and so you just
I'm
don't
going
know,
through that.
right? And
Yep.
so, love people and don't be so judgmental. I do think that people who are obese, which I'm classified as still obese, we are judged, and I think a lot of people look at us and say, "You must be lazy," or "You must be this," and that's not
Yeah,
always the case.
no
I'm
self-control, like that you don't
Mhm,
care about yourself, that things don't matter to you if you continue, like all the things that it's like, you shouldn't go to the store and buy that, or it's not safe for you to have that in your house, and you still buy it on a whim or whatever. Another thing is like right now it's weight, and that the weight has been a problem probably since the early '90s. I think that our whole society has been getting heavier. So in 20 years, if you still have a podcast, you're going to be podcasting over electronic devices. So like every generation has its own addiction that we because we're humans and we're going to find
mm,
something that's not
yeah,
healthy for us. And so I think that my kids, they're not really
absolutely.
overweight, but they are definitely addicted to screens. So I just
Yeah,
think
I mean,
everybody
yeah,
has
we
an addiction.
there's always gonna be something. Mhm, yeah. So how did you get sober, if you will, from food? Tell us how your redemption, your healing.
When I first got into recovery and I knew I was kind of making it this time, that I wasn't gonna go back to drugs and alcohol, I realized I really didn't wasn't happy with myself with my weight. I was very unhappy with those things. And so I started to go to Weight Watchers, and I was at Weight Watchers religiously for a long time. And then I started doing boot camps, and I just couldn't quite get there. So I went and I learned about surgery, and I was like, oh, that's really expensive. So I went back to Weight Watchers, and for 5 years I continued to try to do it on my own. And and I know that they have Overeaters Anonymous, but it's not like AA. They're not like three in a town, right? And I just never found a way to make that part of who I am. I should have, and I still should. I still haven't quite made Overeaters Anonymous part of my life, even though AA has helped me stay sober off drugs and alcohol. Um, but so my turning point was that after 5 years, I went back and I had surgery, and my husband supported me, and my dad supported me, my mom supported me, and so it was a decision that I took a long time to make, and I really wish I wouldn't have waited 5 years, because I truly believe it
Mm,
saved my life, and I had it within 5 years of going through. I'm about to go through menopause, and they say it's the worst time for us as females to try to keep our weight off, and so and the lady I go to for my metabolic center today says they don't even recommend my surgery for anyone over the age of 35, because our hormones regrow. And so they recommend the other surgery, which was a little bit more expensive. And I chose not to do that because I was cash pay. I had to pay for it all myself. And so I didn't do that one. And but even though it's a struggle because it's just a tool, I do have tools. And one of the things that surgery did for me is it reset my I could tell when I was full. When I was
mm,
before, it was kind of out of my control. I would just eat until I didn't want to eat anymore. Or I would just, but like after surgery, I had symptoms that would tell me that I was full. Like when I was full, my nose might start to run, or I could feel it that I was full. And I can't ever remember feeling that I was full for as long as I can remember. So I do believe that there's certain things that
mhm.
happen besides just have the surgery making your stomach smaller. It actually resets your whole system of talking to you when it relates to food. And I I truly believe that it did save my life, and it has given me new tools that are successfully helping me maintain most of my weight loss.
Oh, that's wonderful because we're talking about your health. I
Correct.
mean, right? Longevity in your health and your livability, and let's be honest too, your self-esteem.
Absolutely.
I
Which
mean
affects my whole family. Because if you don't have
Mhm,
self-esteem, then you're not healthy, you're toxic for your family. If you
mhm,
don't have a good self-worth, and I don't mean an ego, because, I mean, the church helps me with my ego, but, like, if you don't have self-esteem, then it's very difficult for you to teach someone else to have self-esteem about themselves, and you really want your children to not be in toxic relationships and to not be the toxic relationship. And so having good self-worth, healthy self-worth is really important, and I don't believe that I really had a lot of that, even though I was really smart and all those things, but I was also very self-reliant, and because of that, I wasn't very happy with myself, so I didn't have a lot of
mhm,
self-esteem.
yeah. And would you say now your self-esteem has improved since you've gotten a handle on your weight
It it ha
and your
it has.
eating? That's
It
wonderful.
has, and it also showed me that I can really do anything. And
Mm,
you wouldn't tell a drug addict that they shouldn't go to rehab, and you wouldn't tell a cancer patient not to do chemo. So I don't
right.
care that I did surgery that got me to where I wanted to be. I do care that I had to pay a bunch of money for it, but I mean, at the same time, people pay a bunch of money for rehab. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I, but if that's, and I feel like that, there should be more access to help people because I do
Oh,
believe that our society is a very Hollywood society, and we do look at people's outsides and judge their insides.
mhm. I agree with you. The heaviest I've ever been is 310 pounds, I think. And I struggled to get the weight off for a long time. Um, and I remember just times where I would cry and I would say, I wish people could see my resume, not my body.
Yep,
Because
I
I
hate
just,
seeing people.
I'm like, this, what you see is not a reflection of how I do my life. And I struggled with that. I struggled with loving myself. I struggled with my self-worth. I struggled with so many things, and I still do. Um, but with getting control of this eating, that is all improving, right?
Right,
And I just I don't want anyone who's listening. I If you are struggling with your weight or in eating, you're not alone in those feelings. And I'm not saying you can't not love yourself when you're big, but
right,
there are usually, well, in my experience, I can say it really gave havoc to my self-esteem.
yes.
And I'm thankful that God is helping me get through and not being addicted to food and not overeating,
And
and learning different coping mechanisms. But it's difficult.
I just wanted to share this too. I've shared about my surgery and that I did Weight Watchers and all those things cost money. But truthfully, what keeps me food sober today is I go weekly to Celebrate Recovery on Friday nights where you can work on any hurt habit or hang up. If you're a codependent, if you're
Mm.
an overeater, if you've got kids in addiction, or you can go work on whatever thing that's hurting you so that you can maintain healthy. And for me, I use that as working on my food addiction. And so that's a free resource. So you don't have to pay money to get support system that understands what a hurt habit or hang up that food can be to a person. And there's Overeaters Anonymous is free. You can go on the internet and they have all kinds of meetings, and there is free support out there that understand what we go through, and it doesn't cost anything, except for maybe being willing to go and check it out and start to make one change at a time.
Thank you for that. I think that's important for people to realize there are free resources. So Celebrate Recoveries, Overeaters Anonymous, and you don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to be ashamed of it. We in this entire series, I think one of the things, Jay, that we keep saying is go be honest with somebody, go tell somebody you're struggling, and get help, and don't try to do this all by yourself. Not at all. So thank you so much. Stay on, Penny. I might refer back to you, but Jada, I gotta know there's some science on this one. I
There
mean,
certainly is, absolutely, 100%. So, I did pull out 3 things from the research that I found. The first one was actually from the Appetite Journal in 2018, and their study found or the study that they found showed that up to 60% of adults eat in response to stress, sadness, or boredom, not because they're hungry. So, it's very common.
yeah.
More common than you would think. The other one was from the Yale Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity from 2017. They found that highly processed foods high in sugar, fat, and salt activate that dopamine pathway in your brain, which is the same reward system that is triggered by drugs. And so
Well,
food is
hello.
addictive,
Yep.
especially sugary foods.
Western
And
food.
certainly. I didn't pull science on this, but I have seen studies that have said that, sugar is just as hard um, as a substance to overcome essentially than cocaine is. And so, yeah. wild.
And our society is laden with it.
Oh,
It's in
yeah.
everything.
It's in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even you think about electrolyte drinks and the number one ingredient is sugar. I'm like, I'm trying to stay hydrated, not get a sugar high. Like, anyways, that's another topic. But, and then the last one I have is, according to the World Health Organization, chronic overeating increases the risk of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, which is linked to higher levels of depression and anxiety, which I think goes back to a little bit of what Penny was talking about earlier is, anxiety is how, or was part of why she was feeding,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
overeating. So, that is the science I have for today. But Athena, I'm sure you have some practical steps and
I
rubber meets the
do.
road for us.
I do, and you know what? I'm gonna tell you because I'm fairly honest that this is an area that I'm currently still on. These are reminders for me, as I tell you guys, the rubber meets the road. Again, these are practical steps, because we want you to be able to get help. But number one thing, pause before you eat and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Am I hungry? Am I bored? Am I scared? Am I anxious? Why am I eating? And then write it down. I make yourself stop for a second and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Awareness of why you do an addiction is critical, and it's the beginning of the steps to get healed, right? I'm to tell you, I have had to make it to where I eat at certain times a day, and I won't allow myself to eat outside of those times because I'm trying to make it structured. Because outside of that structure, I'm eating not because I'm hungry, and I know that. And so I've had to get very regimented. And I'm not saying you have to be as regimented, but I'm just telling you for me, I'm like, Athena, this is when you're hungry. If you're eating outside of those times, you're not doing it because you need fuel. You're doing it for a different reason. Um, that's helped. It started with really that awareness. Number two, identify your emotional triggers. Start to understand, and this is with any addiction, but with food, um, I'm stressed, I'll eat. If I'm lonely, I'll eat. If I'm overtired, I'll eat. What is it? What is going on that makes you want to go to the pantry, makes you want to go to the fast food? And start to understand those. And then I will say this, start thinking about what is causing the loneliness, what is causing the stress, and get to the root of those problems, because the food is a coping mechanism. It's not the handling the reason. Okay, you need to handle the reason why you're stressed, not just numb from it. So start identifying those emotional triggers, start writing those down, and maybe go get some counseling of why are those things happening in my life. Okay. And then number three, create alternative comforts. Now, this one, wow, I got to tell you how important this one is. Instead of going to food, what else can I do? Can I journal? Can I go for a walk? Can I call a friend? Can I pray? Can I do yoga? What can you do other than going to the store and getting food or going out to eat? What else can I do? This one has been huge for me, because food was my entertainment and it was easy. I could do it with my daughter. Now she goes on walks with me, right? Now we walk the mall, and we don't eat at the mall, but we walk the mall. There's nothing at the mall that's good for you. I'm just gonna tell you that right now, right? So you don't eat at the mall, but think about what are those things that you can do that are not food related. Um, and sometimes combine them. You know what I've interesting at my I don't have a lot of time in my life. I've combined um going on walks with my friends. So I get community while I get the walk, and my daughter gets to come. And so much healthier than me going out for brunch, right? So starting to do some alternative things. And then practice, this one's hard, but I'm going to tell you, practice mindful eating. Do simple things like put the fork down in between bites, make yourself drink water while you eat. Think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, And I will say this, enjoy your food. Most of us who are food addicts, we're not even thinking about, we're not really enjoying the food. And so slowing down and allowing yourself to enjoy the food. And
Yeah,
last,
oh, I like to add to that one. So one of the things that they told us to do is that we set time aside to eat at those times, undistracted. And for me personally, because of surgery, I don't eat 30 minutes before or an hour after I eat. And that way my stomach feels fuller longer. So not
Hmm.
only did they tell you to mindfully eat, like you just said, they were like, encourage your body to retrain it to feel full.
Hmm.
wow, that's great. You know, that's why I'm eating at certain times and I'm just like, you're not allowed to eat unless it's those times
Right. It's great.
because I will overeat and I'll eat not healthy if I don't do that. It's really odd, but I know. And the last thing, you guys, is please get help. This food is too available. This is not an addiction that you're gonna get through without help. There is Celebrate Recovery, there's Overeaters Anonymous, whatever tools and resources you need, but don't do this alone. Food is too readily available, and um, I just it's too important. Your health is important. Your self-esteem is important, and we want you to live a long, beautiful, prosperous life.
Hmm.
So get the help that you need. Jada, I'm sure you're going to put some links about Celebrate Recovery in here and maybe Overeaters so you can get some help. Really appreciate that. So, what are we
Yes.
doing now, Miss Jada?
Definitely. Well, I'm going to put Penny on the spot for just a second because I know we mentioned two of the nonprofits that she's a part of, one that she's a founder of, one that she's an executive director of. So, Penny, could you share just a little bit more about Genesis One or the Raft, the Recovery Advocate for Transition nonprofits that you're a part of for anyone that is interested in learning more about those?
Sure. The Genesis One network has been in progress since 1992. A man named John Easley found out that he was trying to help somebody that had gotten out of prison and they couldn't help him, and he couldn't find a job. And he thought that those resources, that was just crazy. So in 1992, he opened two nonprofits. One was to give businesses an incentive to hire felons, and the other one was to give them a good list of candidates to do that with. So he went into the prisons and he taught a faith based accountability program, which is 6 lessons long. You had to be in there for a minimum of 6 months, and then you would be considered a Genesis One graduate. And those people were given an opportunity to have those scholarships that that grant provided. And that's just branched out. So we no longer have the grant. Mr. Easley had a stroke. He's still alive, but it's got passed on to other people. And we don't have a grant, but we have a network of people that graduated. I was not one of the ones that got a grant. It was gone way before me, but we stay in contact. So we have a potluck in Oklahoma City and Tulsa every month. Sometimes graduates come we haven't seen in months. Sometimes people come when they got 3 months out of prison, or sometimes they come when they got 15 years. And then we're able to share that with people that are about to get out of prison. So we transport offenders to these potlucks and they get to see what happens if you stick with doing the right thing. So that's Genesis One. And then the Raft, Recovery Advocate for Transition, is essential now, as most transitional houses are. Oklahoma has closed every single lower security for females. Females will never leave prison with any kind of money. They have closed it to where they cannot get a job while they're still in prison. There are none available. They are not profitable. They've closed all of them. There was a bunch of smaller work releases for men in Muskogee and in Woodward and all these places, and those communities supported those. They put them to work for a little bit less than they would have to pay a regular person, but they invested in those people. So those are no longer in existence in Oklahoma. So the Recovery Advocate for Transition allows women, and I actually have a men's house now, to have a safe place to come after prison. The kicker is it's not an Oxford house, so you can't just come in and do whatever you want. I have a program house, so you're required to go to Celebrate Recovery on Friday nights to work on whatever it is you're still struggling with, because everybody struggles with something. You're required to go to church on Sunday morning. After 120 days, you can go to any church you want to go to, because what's the best church to go to? The one you go to. And so, and then if they do that for a year, we will give them $25 of the money they pay in every week in the form of a $1,300 check if they graduate the program, so they can go put a deposit down on another apartment. We've graduated 4 ladies since 22, and we have every single one of them has successfully found housing as a former felon. Um, 17 of the 20 or the 22 that we've brought through our house that have stayed over 6 months are still sober today. And that's a pretty,
Wow.
and only one out of the 45 that we have helped that even didn't stay 6 months has reoffended. And I feel like that's a
That's
pretty
huge.
good number for recidivism
Yeah.
in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that is amazing. And thank you for sharing about those. Those may be resources that people need or know other people that need them. So thank you. The other things I will put in the show notes are a link to Celebrate Recovery. I know that's a nationwide thing. It's not just an Oklahoma thing. So if you're listening from coast to coast, this is something that you
Right.
can definitely get plugged into. And then Overeaters Anonymous, same thing. So I'll put links for that. Otherwise, if this conversation spoke to you, just please subscribe or share it with a friend that may need to hear it. Leave us a review because that makes it easier for other people to find it. And don't forget, Athena's book is coming out in soon. So 2026, this is December. This podcast is coming out. So it'll be coming out soon. Get on the list for early access discounts and exclusive extras by joining the list in the show notes. And to leave you with something serious, this is not your practice life. So don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for perfect. Start messy, start scared. Just start because nothing's going to change until you do. And so we will be standing with you every step of the way. We can't wait to see you next week.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.